like your trend was a little stronger than everybody else's, and you know what happened? It kind of leveled off.
Yeah, it did. I don't really have an explanation for it. I know Scott and I were sharing water. He might have a better take on why it didn't happen up there today. I think really, in my opinion, the pressure. You know, you had 52 guys go through there in practice, and let's say they each caught 2 of them. You know, that's a lot of fish getting sore lips. So they were still up there swimming around. You could see them, but they, you know, probably were caught, fooled with. I don't know if the boat pressure really messed with them that much because a lot of that water still stayed clean because of the current. When I got that first bite this morning after the current started moving, I really thought it was fixing to be on because, you know, it was a good one and it was set up just the way that they had been setting up, the way they should set up in current. I think the fish were set up, they just didn't bite for me. It just wasn't meant to be. I wouldn't go back and do anything different, you know.
It's a rather 7,200 acre lake with 7 consecutive days that you guys have been on it now. Kind of for each of you, how did it change from the first day of practice through today?
Just like I said, just like I was saying before, I mean, those fish were, they had seen a lot of baits, you know, especially in that river.
Yeah, I think the fish just weren't replenishing on a lot of that brush piles. I think a lot of us were staggering our timing between the brush piles as well. So if one did pull up, we immediately caught it. And so it just, I don't think the population's quite there to hold that many guys rotating through the same stuff.
Yeah, I would sit back, start every morning to where I could kind of see where everybody else would start, so that I could try to place my run, you know, not the same. So I picked a good brush pile to where I could see the whole hatchery on day 1, you know, and then kind of figure out, okay, who's running what, so that I could be on clean brush the first 2 days, and that worked. You know, I had two good bags. I think that worked, and you know, that was my strategy. And I shook them off in practice. You know, I didn't catch them, so I felt like, you know, I knew which brush piles were good and which ones weren't, and because I knew it was going to be 7 days of fishing. So it's one of the things I tried to do to prepare for 7 days of guys, you know, catching them. And I caught back-to-back 4-pounders on Monday. I mean, on the first day of the tournament on a brush pile that I'd shook a big one off. So, you know, I kind of think that strategy worked for me. And so I tried to stick with that. And ultimately, I think we all might have had a brush pile or 2 that not everybody had, which was good. You know, I could kind of rely on a couple because I'd never see somebody on it. But, you know, like Jeremy said, we were definitely sharing them. You know, and I fished 99% of the time south of the bridge. I only went over the bridge today to try to make a miracle, and I took for 30 minutes. And I didn't like the way the watercolor looked. It was dirtier down in the hatchery, so I think that's why I stayed there.
Yeah, for me, I didn't really do the brush pile thing. I was up the river, but during practice, you know, I ran a lot of that stuff. I didn't really get a lot of bites doing it, so that's obviously why I stayed up in the river. But you know, before this tournament started, I was worried that we were going to be, you know, it was going to be kind of ridiculous out there sharing water and everybody going down banks, and I was really surprised. I think everybody would agree how big the lake fished, so that was kind of cool. It's a fun lake, you know. I'd like to come back. I think it's pretty cool. It fishes big. I mean, I don't ever remember really not thinking I could go down a bank because someone just went down it. I mean, you had to pay attention to where people were in practice, but it fishes really big.
Could each of you take a minute and detail the pattern, the baits, equipment that you use, and start down here with Dakota?
Yeah, so I was I would say that I did most of my damage on current breaks. You know, when the current would get flowing up there, it would either would be an inside grass line, it would be a piece of hard structure inside that grass line where the fish would sit up to ambush, and that might be a dock pile, and it may be a lay down, you know. And that I was throwing a fluke when it was cloudy, and just kind of on light line. The adjustment I made from the first day to the second day was switching from 12-pound test to 8-pound test, and I really think that was key. I think if I'd been throwing around 8-pound test on the first day, it could have been a lot better because I had a lot of fish on the first day. They weren't really as pressured, and they followed my bait and just wouldn't commit. And as soon as I switched to lighter line, that's when I caught my bag yesterday. So I think if I'd have made that adjustment then, it would have been a lot better for me. But that was pretty much my pattern there. When the sun come out, in practice I was throwing a trick worm around those docks and those current breaks and in the shade areas, even over like a little overhanging limb was shade, there would be a fish sitting there. And I shook them all off. I just had a screw lock on my bait. So that was the way I found those fish. But when the tournament came around, it was cloudy, so I switched to the fluke.
You know, I started off every morning just running the bank down the lower end of the lake. You know, I had a whopper flopper and a live target bait ball popper, and then I had a freedom lure swing in buzz bait. And I took those 3 baits and would run the bank for a couple hours, trying to just switch between baits on what kind of bank I was on. I wasn't really too picky about the bank as long as it was a little bit deep in front of it. You couldn't see the bottom as long as the seawall, or if it just had riprap, you couldn't just flat see the bottom. And then it had some deep water close by as far as like, I didn't want to go in the back of a creek. I tried to run some points, just the front halves of the pockets and things like that. And then every day I'd switch out and go to the brush pile deal, all the way from the lower end to the last bridge in the lake. And, you know, a lot of times you'd get down through there and you'd run into some people and they'd be on your stuff, so you'd hop 4, 5, 6 piles. Sometimes you couldn't get on them in a row. And so throughout the day, I would still go back to the bank in some areas, especially when I got further up the river, and try to make that top water bite still work, you know, in the shade and stuff like Dakota was saying. But it just never really transpired in the tournament. I really thought I was going to really put my weight together on a topwater bait and then use the drop shot as a limit filler if I got in a jam, and it really turned the opposite on me. I just weighed in 1 fish both days, the first 2 days of the tournament, and I didn't even weigh in a topwater fish today. And so it's really kind of changed up, but I did about all my damage on a Zoom swamp crawler and watermelon candy, and then another little worm that got kind of in a margarita color. But it was just your typical drop shot, you know, with 3-ounce weight, 10-pound sunline, FC sniper from a leader, and SX1 16-pound braid. And I just ran it in there. You know, I tried to throw a Zumo monster and some bigger worms. I did catch a couple on a Magnum trick worm and watermelon candy as well, but it just seemed like if I got around one, he would eat that little worm. So I just kind of kept throwing the drop shot. But that was pretty much the one too.
I stayed deep all week, and I fished a crankbait, a Spro deep diver, and a 10-inch worm in plum color. And I basically would, and I fished a drop shot a little bit. In practice, I did fish a drop shot a little bit more than in the tournament, just because it was more efficient. I could get it down with a 3/8. I could get it in and out of the brush pile really fast. And once I found the brush that I wanted to fish in the tournament, I'd go to them first with the worm, and if they didn't like that, I'd throw the crankbait on them, and you know, try to. And I was also using the next size up from in the Spro, so if it was a little bit more shallow pile. And I lost a good one today on the shallow diver one, because it was like a 12-foot brush pile, so it kind of worked out. I caught 2 yesterday on it, so it was fun.
For me, I pretty much was throwing had a spinner rod in my hand all week, skipping a Cinco and a trick worm. Actually, it was a Guggen Baits shaky hit, and just on a weightless hook, and I would mix it up a little bit, and the current would get real strong. I'd put a little weighted wacky on as well. Kind of the same thing as Dakota's fishing, those little current breaks and little seams. Throughout practice, you could kind of figure out where the fish were. You'd see them chase your bait, so they would always kind of stay in those same areas. And I was catching some fish every day on a big glide bait, different ones. The first day I threw a big giant dual. It was a big rainbow trout, and then I kind of switched it up every day with the glide baits, because I felt like once they saw it a few times, you know, they didn't react to it as well. So every day I threw a different one, just different color. Today I threw a River to Sea S Waver, and they just reacted to it good. I did have a lot of big fish, you know, follow it, and saw some really good opportunities, kind of swim away. But for the most part, it was 10-pound line and a spinning rod in my hand, and it was, you know, skipping way up under those docks. That current would get going, and they need a current break when that current's really ripping, and those fish would be so far into those docks where you wouldn't even think one would be, and your line would go tight. It was pretty cool. So several of those fish that I caught today on 10-pound P-line, I mean, I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to get them out, but I could, you know, get them out through all those trees and up the dock. So that was a pretty simple approach for the most part. Big glide bait and a finesse tactic as well.